A few years ago, Sacha French was going to her job as a radio producer, thinking it was going to be a normal day. Everyone was acting normally, well, as normally as can be expected when you're with Hughesy and Kate. But this was not going to be a normal day for Sacha. At one point in the show, Hughesy and Kate called her into the studio, gave her a birthday card, and got her to read out loud, live on air, what was written inside. Here's what it said.
You have done and do so much for us, so we've decided to do something for you. This is to formally let you know that we have paid off your student loan. You're free, Sacha, at least from that rotten debt. We hope you'll never be free of us. Your friends forever, Hughesy and Kate.
Sacha had crippling student debts, and just like that, they were all gone. It's a great story, but it's only the beginning for Sacha. She's an advocate for financial literacy, especially for women. And you're going to hear her story on this episode of Money and a Good Life. My name's Stephanie Coombs, and I'm here with my co-host, mate, and money expert, Ryan Watson. Hey, Ryan.
Hi, Steph. How are you?
I'm good. We're excited for this one, aren't we?
I am, very much so.
Yeah, this is a great story because today we're here with Sacha French. Sacha is an executive producer with over 20 years of experience in the media, but today she's here to share her deeply personal financial story, and one that took her from being a single mum in significant debt to being financially independent and an advocate for women's financial literacy. Sacha, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Well, let's start right at the beginning. You moved out at a young age. What was your understanding of money at that time?
I had absolutely no concept of savings, of credit cards. So I think I was 17 when I moved out. I moved into a share house, studying at the same time, and I just didn't, no one had ever had a conversation with me about having savings. I was the lucky thing for me is I've always had a really strong work ethic. So I've always had a job from an early age. So paper run, working in the local supermarket. I've always worked. And I think that's the thing that sort of saved me in that situation, because I was a spender as well. And whatever I earned, I spent, but at least I was working.
Did you ever have sort of conversations in your family about money?
Nothing. Nothing at all. And I don't know why. Like, looking back, it's my parents both earned good money. Although we weren't overly wealthy, but enough money that we could have nice things. Mum always talked about buying nice clothes. You know, it'd be better to buy quality. So that was something that I always took with me. So if I had some money, I'd spend it on something expensive. But there was never... They never talked about finances or bank accounts or anything like that.
Do you remember the first significant thing that you bought, Sash?
I definitely remember when I moved out of home spending money on Chanel makeup, on a red lipstick, ridiculous back then. Like, I was spending $60 on a lipstick. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it was quite significant back then. And I always had nice shoes, like the nicest stuff.
Yep.
I bet the lipstick looked good though.
It was great.
Chanel is good.
Yeah.
Was there anything, is that what you'd always wanted, or was it a bit of a spur of the moment purchase?
I think it was a spur of the moment, but with things like shoes and clothes, like I always was definitely buying stuff that was well beyond my means and getting myself in debt with shop cards and credit cards.
When was the point that you started to realise that you were possibly spending more than you were making?
Oh, not for a very long time.
Yeah.
Like, probably not until my early 40s.
Okay.
And because I always worked, but I'd always spend everything that I earned, plus just going from credit card to credit card.
Was there a turning point for you in all of this?
Yes, had become a single mum. It's interesting. Like, I suddenly realised that it became overwhelming, the amount of debt I had, and it started to really take over my life in the fact that I spent a lot of time being stressed about it and thinking about it, and it had got to the point that I was in a situation that was I had so much debt, not only the student debt we've talked about at the start, but different credit cards, and again, I was balance transferring. I didn't understand about interest. Like, I didn't understand what was happening when I was only doing the minimum payment, and I would consider myself a smart person, but I just was I choosing to ignore it, or I just had never had that conversation with anyone and just never really put any thought into it.
Was it just sort of maybe out of sight, out of mind? Like, you were wearing nice clothes, you were obviously homed,
Yes.
You were, doing everything that you were supposed to be doing and just it never really was a problem in a sense.
And in a sense. And then the debt got so big that the idea of being debt-free and owning my place was so beyond anything I could imagine, because I was just like, I'm never going to pay this debt off. I'm never going to get out of this situation. So I may as well just keep
It was really a management. How do you keep the financial balls in the air?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's probably, I reckon it was one of the shop cards like David Jones or something, and they sent me a statement, and I've been doing the minimum payment, and I think something happened and they were required to put on the bottom how long it was going to take you to pay off the card if you only did the minimum payment. And it was something ludicrous, like 20-something years, and the $800 I owed, I would pay off 3 times that in that time in interest. I mean, that was such a shock to me, and that was probably the first time I'd ever thought about interest and what was going on. And, I mean, how had I not thought about this? I don't know.
Well, I mean, it makes sense, and I think that there would be a lot of people in this situation where, like, information isn't just absorbed via osmosis. You need to be educated. You need to have someone teaching you about money and telling you about interest, because you can actually, if you are working and you are someone who is industrious, you can actually go through life and manage to avoid this.
Yeah, and, and I was good at admin, so I'd always just keep it all ticking along without going into bankruptcy or anything like that. But that was probably that side of my personality. But I was lucky.
Do you think that there are a lot of people who are living like this at the moment?
Oh, I have girlfriends who absolutely are like that. And also it gets too much. So to the point, I had one friend who had racked up all these parking tickets, and it was so overwhelming that she just chose not to open the envelopes anymore, and then ended up in court and then was forced to actually deal with the situation. But I understood what she was feeling, because I'd been there where you just went, I'm just choosing not to look over there at this debt that's increasing every month.
Yeah, and we've discussed this before on the podcast, haven't we, Steph, around people changing out of inspiration or desperation, and this big piece in the middle, Sash, don't want to call it apathy, but it's just okay. But then it either gets to a point where they've had enough, they want better for themselves, or like you said with your friend who went to court, they just had to deal with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that for a lot of people, there is a shame as well associated with money, like the deep, deep shame. And it's like you like thinking it and looking at it and confronting it is painful. And sometimes it's easier when you've got a lot going on just to shove that one a little bit deeper under the bed.
And not talk about it. And I think that was probably also the difference. Like, I was embarrassed, absolutely. So I never talked about it with anyone. And then something changed, and I had some colleagues I was working with who talked about money. That was something that changed as well, because then you're starting to have conversations, and I didn't feel that shame as much.
Can we dig into that a little bit, Sash? So those colleagues, was it anything about them, or was it a particular topic about money that they wanted to discuss? Because, again, Steph, we've discussed there's just not conversations enough about money as a general rule in Australia. It's pushed down. So was there anything particular about those people that were trusted, or they had a passion for learning around money?
Yeah, I think they had a passion for learning. They were probably in a similar position to me, like they didn't have a lot. There was a couple of young guys who were really interested in the share market and were learning about that and teaching themselves and starting to invest. So we would have these conversations in the office, and then they were doing it, so they'd show me how to do it, and then it sort of started the ball rolling in that sense.
Yeah.
And so we started buying little bits and pieces of shares. I looked last night, the first ones I bought, which ridiculous. I think I bought $1,000 worth of something. They're now worth $50, but I just keep them there as that was my first step into actually investing in something that one didn't grow, but lots of others did.
So the themes, that I'm hearing there, so there was learn and there was play. It wasn't about money and the emotions or anything like that. It was they were open enough. They were willing to learn. They were willing to share, and it was not play money, but it was a willingness to play and learn. So it almost took you back to being like a kid. There was no fear of getting it wrong.
No, absolutely. And it's interesting. I've then taken other friends along on that journey. I've got another couple of girlfriends I've worked with who were in a similar situation, and then I was so excited by this new understanding and being able to actually start seeing a future for myself financially that I'm now a real advocate for that, and I'm always banging onto them like that. You can just about see them rolling their eyes. And I'm like, come on, you can do it. Let's do this. Let's, what's your super? Are you looking at your super? All those kind of things.
Well, I have had discussions, Steph, about trying to get Sacha across to be an advisor or in some, some sort of goal-setting coach. I haven't won her over yet, but we'll see.
That'd be a good fit, actually. Not a bad idea. Look, I want to get to your student debt in a moment, but I think that is just a fraction of the story, right? Because the student debt that you had is a whole other ballpark, but really what a lot of your story is the habits around money and how you managed to break them and change them. So at some point you had a reckoning. You were still in the hole for a large amount of money. How did you dig yourself out?
I stopped spending. Actually started to look at where am I putting my money, what interest am I paying. Like I'd never looked at the interest on the credit cards, never looked at that. And suddenly once I started to understand that, you could actually see I was going to make a difference. And the interesting thing with debt is once you start paying a little bit off and you're seeing it going down, God, it was amazing. It was that feeling. And now I have none. I have a credit card, which I pay off every month. I have accounts where I know that I've got a couple of medical things I have to do every year. So I have a bank account where I put money in every month. So there's money sitting there for that. It's
if I can ask, how does that feel, Sash?
I don't spend any time. I used to spend so much time in the middle of the night thinking about my finances and being really stressed. Like it was scary. The future wasn't something could even see it being something great. Yeah. And I don't think about that. I mean, I do, I think about it a lot, but not in that sense of fear and stress.
And dread. When you started pulling back your spending, was that a hard adjustment?
Oh, absolutely. 'Cause I used to go, $500 shoes, I'll have them in 2 colours and they'll be going on my credit card. Yeah. It was stupid. So that making that change was, it was hard because that was a habit I built up over a long time.
And it's a way to get a bit of dopamine as well. It's a way to feel good.
Absolutely. On the weekends, my son would be with his dad. I'd be feeling a bit lonely. I'd go shopping.
Yeah. How did you manage to replace that or change it?
Exercise.
Really?
To be honest, yeah. I think that was at the similar time I started exercising a lot more. And that sort of became a bit more of a focus for me.
Yeah, right. So you swapped one unhealthy habit with a very healthy habit.
Yeah, absolutely.
You make it sound easy.
And again, Steph, so 2 key themes, goals, so setting goals for yourself, and then habits.
Habits.
So
I love habits.
The goal's great, but then you went to the how-to. So what was your strategy around doing it? Creating new habits for yourself. And probably, you come along enough on the journey so you'd recognise when you could fall back into an old habit. So you created the awareness muscle, and then how do you fall into the new habit around exercising, things like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you were doing more exercising, was it that you just made sure that every morning you were going for a run or something? What did that actually look like?
I started doing Pilates. Then I started training as a Pilates teacher.
Say, I trained.
I became an instructor. But just gave myself something to focus on, and goals, which I think also sort of aligning with that financial thing. I was thinking about, is there a different career I want? Is this going to be something that could be a side hustle? Is this something that I could do later in life when I retire? The things I was trying to do were all things that were going to add on to this good life I was hopefully building for myself.
Yeah. Sacha's story, I think, is probably one that you've heard before in your line of work, right? Are you hearing reoccurring themes here?
Yeah, absolutely. We discussed it before, Steph. We don't get taught about money. There's not great rates of financial literacy in Australia. So we come out of school and we might university or straight into, the paid work environment, and we don't know what to do. And then we just start spending and we don't have the right structures in place. And then it gets to a point in people's lives, it's different ages or stages of career or whether it's relationship breakdown, and people want to create the change. So we can't just tick a box or outsource it to other people. It's how do we go on that journey? Obviously, you can speak with an advisor and they can help you set goals and habits and structures as well. But it's the human or it's the person who needs to want to create the change and something better for themselves as well. And listening, Sash, and I know you personally as well. it's a truly inspiring story. It's fantastic.
But it's a bit embarrassing. Like even now, I feel.
I know it's not. I know you're not your favourite subject. I know that.
No, but I
really do
I feel a
appreciate
bit
it.
embarrassed about how I ended up in that situation.
But I think that this is the thing. It creates a lot of shame, but I don't think that that's fair because I think that we grow up subject to forces that we don't necessarily understand. Like I as a kid, for whatever reason, when Easter came, I get all these Easter eggs and I wouldn't eat them until they went mouldy for whatever reason. You know,
the white cover on top.
Yeah. That's like I like to do that, and I think that is exactly the same habit as I've had with money.
Mm-hmm.
I just like to accrue, and I should be investing or something.
Yeah.
But like the seeing the number go up, but that is not a moralistic judgment on me. That is obviously something as a kid, probably having siblings and, having to have one up on them is what's created that.
You probably had a sibling that ate all theirs at the start.
Yeah.
And
I got to sit on my, like a dragon hoarding its jewels.
Yeah. But in just taking us back there, in terms of, it's not easy and, the shame and the like, that's why I genuinely applaud you for coming on and talking about it, because there are thousands, if not tens of thousands of people who are in the same position. And we just want to help them. And the only way we can do that is by starting this conversation.
Oh, absolutely. And also the difference, I look at my parents never talked to me about their financial situation, whereas I have a son now who's about to turn 20, and as soon as he was old enough, I have included him in the financial decisions I'm making and talked to him about them, when I'm buying shares or what I'm investing in or what debt I have and all. And so he's been part of that conversation with me because I was really aware I didn't want him to be in that same situation, like not knowing. Like I talk to him about super all the time and my super and where it's up to, and like I talk to him about how much I've got, not just.
Yeah, so
what's
it's a mystery.
been his reaction, Sash? Being on the journey.
Well, I think he's very proud of where I've got to, for one, but he is invested in our future. Like. Yeah, he understands it.
So again, Steph and, putting the financial advisor hat on, we don't see anywhere near enough of those conversations in the family unit either.
Yeah.
Talking about money, normalising it, legacy conversations and things, again, applaud those dinner time, just normalising the conversation. Because then the kids feel okay to ask questions that they might feel are silly, but there is no such thing as a silly question.
And it stops it being taboo as well.
Spot on.
And it just means that it doesn't have to be something that you can, need to keep squirreled away shamefully.
Exactly. Yeah.
And now, obviously, we started this episode talking about the student debt, which is I think this is probably one of the most unfair debts I've ever heard. Do you want to tell us about it?
Oh, it was. I sort of came into university in New Zealand as the student loans were introduced. So I was the first year of them. So they would cover your fees and they'll give you a chunk of money for your living expenses. And again, I think we were paying interest right from the start, but I did not understand any. All it was for me was free money. Yeah. I was like, oh, let's go skiing, let's go shopping, like great times. And this went through. I was at university, then I went on to do broadcasting school. And same thing, every year I would take out the absolute maximum. And I think in our heads, we kind of thought the government would wipe it out at some point, or
tomorrow's problem.
Absolutely.
Tomorrow's problem.
Yeah, and then in my late 20s, I got a job overseas, and I think a lot of people just never did repayments. Like there's a lot of people living in Australia who can't even go back to New Zealand because of these debts, and they haven't made repayments. But I was really good. I went over to England, and I would send home $200 or $300 a month, and kept regular communication with the student loan people and always made regular payments. But they weren't enough because I think I borrowed $41,000 all up. And the interest was accruing. Then at some point I was a single mum and they'd send a letter going, we're doing an amnesty, trying to get people to get back in touch. So they were trying to get people overseas to start repaying their loans. And so you don't have to make any repayments for 2 years. And I'm like, great. I'm struggling as a mum anyway. Mm-hmm. I don't have to make any repayments, but not even understanding, I don't know how I didn't understand this, that this interest is just going up and up and up. And by this point, the minimum was not even, and there were late fees and you pay higher interest on late fees and all sorts. So I think I borrowed 41, I'd paid off 52,000, and in the end I owed 80,000.
Wow.
Which is astounding. I mean, and that is a high rate of interest.
Yeah, and that's over 27 years.
But it would have been.
I can't even do that math.
Yeah, I know.
I don't even know how we get to. I don't even know how we get there.
But my understanding of the story is if you had stayed in New Zealand,
no interest.
no interest.
And, again, I'm very good at admin and that kind of. So at some point I got a lawyer and I sent a letter going, I've got a child in Australia. I can't move home. I don't think it's fair that I'm forced to pay interest. And they went, nah, sorry.
Is that still how it runs in New Zealand at the moment?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
There must be a lot of people in that situation.
I have people in the radio industry I work with who owe probably 150,000 and can't go home.
Yeah.
Can't go home is tragic as well. Like that's actually, and that's not helping New Zealand's economy when you are locking
and they're
skilled
pretty,
people
like
out.
even when I went to them, I rang and said, okay, I'm going to pay off the full 80. Do I get a discount?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Wow.
So
Shocking.
there's not a lot of incentive
No.
for people to pay them off.
Just black and white.
Yeah.
In their
And
their version of.
Absolutely. And then it had got so big, it was just like I just was like,
Insurmountable.
I am never going to pay this thing off.
Yeah. Well, and that was, the problem that you're in. And this was obviously something you had spoken to at some point with the radio host that you were working with.
I'd talked to Kate about it a couple of
Yeah,
times.
right.
Not a lot because, again, it was embarrassing.
Yeah.
So I think we were away on a trip together when I told her about it. And she was like, we need to do something about this.
Yeah.
And then she got Hughesy on board. So, and I'll be forever grateful because it was a life-changing gift for me because it meant that the credit card debt I had was I could deal with.
Manageable, yeah.
Yes.
It's so nice to hear because that is such an unfair amount of money, especially when you had already paid it off in full, in essence, via, interest. So anyway, it was a really beautiful moment. I think that it must have been quite stressful being on air. You weren't expecting it.
I wasn't expecting it. And I think, again, because of the shame and embarrassment. And then it was on social media and people were writing all these comments like, oh, she's so beautiful. And I had to go see my therapist because
really?
I found it so it's really hard to explain. I didn't feel it was a very uncomfortable feeling. Someone doing something nice for me like that because I'd always also been quite independent, even though I had all this debt. I'd never asked for help from anyone.
Yeah.
And so for someone to financially help me was a really unusual feeling for me.
Potentially a piece in there, Sash, being worthy of that level of help and assistance, with whatever you're comfortable with.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was definitely that. And so I couldn't even read the messages. I don't even know if I have to this day. It's a strange thing.
It's funny because, like, from the outside, it's actually just a good story. I think everybody resonated with it because we don't get a lot of really good stories. And it's like, and here is something, obviously you meant so much to those, Hughesy and Kate. And it was just a really feel-good story where someone who meant something to two people was helped in a way that was really, life-changing.
They're amazing.
We've dragged her into the radio studio. She's got no idea we're going to do this.
Well, she just doesn't know.
What are you going to give her?
Sash, we're away next week and it's your birthday. And here's a card for you. And here are some flowers.
We're going to get her to read out the card.
Yes, open the card.
Here we go. There's a letter.
And then you have to read that letter out loud.
Here we go. It's nice and loud into the microphone.
It is a bit long. Don't worry about it.
Dear Sacha, we have been lucky to be in each other's lives for 15 years. We've had beautiful times together, celebrated the birth of 8 children between us. We have laughed to the point of crying, and in tough times through breakups and breakdowns, and in children's hospitals, we have cried together. Throughout it all, you have been staunch, loyal, valiant, fearless, beautiful. You are the first to arrive, the last to leave, the first to get the jokes, the last to judge. We know everything about each other, or so we thought. When we found out finally in detail last year about the enormity of your student loan, we were honestly shocked. Shocked at the amount of it and shocked at the reality of that you would never be able to repay it, even though you have never stopped trying. We've discussed it many times behind your back, which is hard because you know everything we're up to. And basically neither of us could bear that you, our hardworking, honourable friend, would have to have that albatross around her neck. You have done and do so much for us, so we've decided to do something for you. This is to formally let you know that we have paid off your student loan. You're free, Sacha, at least from that rotten debt. We hope you'll never be free of us. Your friends forever, Hughesy and Kate.
Oh, that's nice, isn't it?
Hang on, you better read the PS.
P.S. You have to give us the bank details and probably organise the bank transfer yourself. Let's face it, you've got all our PIN numbers. Thank you so much. You don't know what this means to me, and I don't know what to say because I love you both so much too.
Such a
Big
terrible.
hugs.
It's awful. It's almost like entrapment.
Obviously, I love the kindness in the story. The small kicker for me was, but then Sash would have to go into their bank account and actually make the payment. I do, in terms of the level of trust, I love that. That was just a nice little kicker at the
There's
end.
a lot of trust there. Yeah.
You've had now this incredible journey where you have managed to wrangle your own financial situation into something that was spiraling out of control. And the student debt being paid off is lovely, but I think so much of this is your own hard work. I mean, that's the thing that, though the radio story is beautiful about your student debt, I don't think that that's fair to make this the story, because actually what this is one woman overcoming her debt by herself. And I think that is a lot of it. And you're now trying to help other people as well. This is what you're what you're really passionate about.
I just, there's so much I look back now going, I moved to Australia when I was 30 and New Zealand didn't have superannuation. So it's like, why didn't anyone teach me, or why didn't I learn about, if I'd put an extra $50 a month back then, and now I put a lot more into my super every month.
Did you hear that, Steph?
Oh,
Steph,
I know.
Steph gets pointless superannuation.
So whenever super gets mentioned, my eyes glaze over, but I know in 10 years from now, I'm going to be like, I hate past Stephanie.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
I
I
know,
spend
yeah.
a lot of time thinking about my super and looking at it and, making extra repayments on my mortgage. Like, these are all things I'm like, well, how did I not know? Why didn't I know that? And so you should see the young producers I work with. I'm on them all the time about this kind of stuff.
Good, because I feel like in media, particularly like broadcast media, I don't know what it is. And these kids as a result come in and they cannot manage, like especially when you're paid on a monthly cycle, first week out, live like kings. Next week, you're just watching them eat microwave rice.
Yeah.
But even humans, Steph, it's a lot about the here and the now, right?
Yeah.
And this is without being the hobby horse around superannuation. And I love, if we liken superannuation to Sasha's example around credit card debt and how much the interest can spiral to, someone's got 100 or 200,000 invested in superannuation today. They've got 25 years until they retire. That's going to be in the millions of dollars. So it's about helping people understand that that's real money. And if you think about it as that pile of money that was sitting in your bank account, how do we have a real conversation around that? I think we just got to make it real.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Think about the fun things that it can buy.
Oh, exactly.
Well.
Yeah. So because something around the long term or in 25 years is so not here and now and what's going to happen in those 25 years, but just how do we make superannuation real for people?
Yeah.
Because they don't even know what accounts they have, a lot of them.
Yep.
Like, it's amazing.
I used to be one of those people. Well, I mean, for all of my 20s, every time I start a new job, it's like, I just shouldn't laugh because it is really bad. But I was like, you could give your superannuation fund that you had, but like then you had to go and find the superannuation number.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is such boring admin.
Yeah.
I'll just start a new superannuation thing. Yeah. And so I had like 5 superannuation literally every time I started a new job.
But if you were flying, could you always find your frequent flyer number?
Yeah, I could. Yeah. But I was just so bored by it. I was like, I don't understand it. I'm bored by it. New super. Yeah. And then eventually I was like, I need to fix this because this is appalling.
So Stephanie of today?
Oh, yeah. Look, it's so easy to merge your superannuation accounts. It's so, and I thought,
look how happy he is.
I thought it was going to be this huge administrational drain, but it's literally just like, it's a internet form and it takes 5 minutes. So if you're someone like me, that is admin you don't have to be worried about. But so, yeah, these are important things. And I think a lot of people can't project forward, especially when you're young. You think you're just going to be young forever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And like, your 30s and your 40s, they creep up on you real fast, and 50s and your 60s and beyond. Do you think that this is something that is particularly important for women to learn? Do you think women are getting left behind?
Oh, absolutely. And I also, look at the young girls I work with and, you don't want to generalise, but what they're spending their money on. They're all doing Pilates, they've got hair, nails, eyelashes, tans, the expensive, I talk about that expensive stuff I bought when I was younger, but they are spending every cent they have and they're going on holidays and they're not saving. Whereas the young men seem to have more knowledge about investing and talk about that.
I do think that old, saying is true, that women are told to save and men are told to invest. There is I think a fundamental difference on how we are expected to manage our money. And I think you raise an excellent point as well about all the aesthetic stuff that women do. There is always just an added pressure, I think, on a woman to look good and dress well. And marketing has never been more pervasive and more compelling on social media. And the makeup industry, I mean, we used to just pick out stuff from Woolworths, and now you're right, MAC is like or whatever giant makeup store, Sephora is now the base standard. And I think
we have a 15-year-old at home that already shops at Mecca. Yep, I've said it there many a time at the front of the store, Steph.
Yeah. I mean, like, and it's a form of artistry as well, being able to do beautiful makeup. But these are the things that, like, that is an expense. I think the hair, makeup, beauty expense that women have is just, it's huge and it's only getting bigger. And I think that will always create a financial gap of sorts.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's necessarily easy to completely tap out of it either.
No. And, and then, of course, you have, having kids, the obvious one.
Yes, yeah. And what that does to your super and what that does to everything else.
But what we do see in advice, Steph, is that when people are ready to receive financial advice, 3 out of 4 times, it's generally, if it's a partnered couple, it'll be the woman in the relationship that reaches out to us, books the appointment, will take the appointment, and probably for potentially the first 15 to 20 minutes, the husband in this instance has their arms crossed. Not sure why they're there, taking time out of their day, but then over time they do open up. So my point around that is that we do see women far more often these days taking the lead, wanting to learn and wanting something better as well.
Yeah, and I think it's about the learning. Like, I love to learn. Like, I'm always studying different things and, and making those opportunities for, the young people to come along and learn. I think that's really important.
I think there was also a shift for you from money being something that was shameful and stressful into being something that actually could kind of be fun and goal-based. Like, when you went from being, I have so much crippling debt, to being, that number is going down. Or, I could conceivably pay this off in a certain amount of time. Things started to change.
It's exciting now. Like, it's exciting when I look at the balance sheet and go, I've got little bits of this here and there, and they're growing, things that are growing.
Yeah, and it can be exciting. I think that's the other thing. Money doesn't need to be this thing that oscillates between shameful and terrifying.
Well, and what Sacha's been able to do, change the narrative from money being in charge of her to Sacha being in charge of money.
Yes.
That's the opportunity.
That's absolutely how it feels.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I mean, Sacha, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. I think that there's so much that people can take away from that.
No, thank you.
So if you have a question, this is actually not a bad time to go and check out the website tribecafinancial.com.au. We've got a form there. So if anything from this episode triggered you in some way or triggered a question that you'd like us to go through, do send us something through that form. And it is never too late to learn about money and get your finances under control. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure you do follow Money and a Good Life wherever you're listening now, and we'll see you next time. Advice given in this podcast is general in nature and is not intended to influence decisions about investing or financial products. Our listeners should always seek their own professional advice that considers their own personal circumstances before making any financial decisions.